until the rich woman slapped her across the face, accusing her of sleeping with her teenage son. But when the husband stepped in, what he revealed turned the entire house upside down. Get ready for a story of betrayal, truth, and a twist that no one saw coming. You will not believe who was really saving the family from falling apart. The sun was soft that morning. Golden light spilled through the French windows of the Whitmore estate. Fresh lilies stood in crystal vases, their fragrance dancing in the air. The marble floors gleamed beneath polished heels. Everything appeared perfect. But perfection, sometimes, hides the deepest cracks. Amara adjusted the collar of her uniform, her fingers trembling slightly. She had just finished placing the breakfast tray in the dining room. Her eyes darted toward the staircase, nervous. She had worked for the Whitmores for 6 years, caring, patient, gentle with everyone, especially young Daniel. He was only 17, still figuring out life, still stumbling into manhood. Amara had guided him like a big sister would, listened to his worries, taught him how to make tea when he was too anxious to sleep. They had laughed once, at midnight, over burnt toast and spilled jam. That laughter now echoed in her mind, but today, it sounded dangerous, because Mrs. Whitmore was waiting in the hallway. Her lips were thin, her eyes were cold. She held a printed photo in her hand. It was blurry, taken through a window. It showed Amara sitting beside Daniel on the patio. His head was on her shoulder. He had been crying. Mrs. Whitmore raised the photo slowly. "You seduced my son," she said, her voice low and sharp. Amara blinked. Her heart thudded against her ribs. "No, ma'am," she replied, voice steady. "He was upset. I comforted him." But rage did not listen to reason. Mrs. Whitmore stepped forward. Without warning, her palm met Amara's cheek. The slap rang through the hallway like a gunshot. Amara gasped. Her skin burned. Tears welled, but did not fall. She stood still, silent, dignified. Behind them, footsteps echoed. Slow, measured. Mr. Whitmore entered the hall. His eyes scanned the room. He saw the photo. He saw Amara's face. And then he spoke. His voice was calm, but every word struck like lightning. "That photo," he said, "was taken by the gardener. He thought he was protecting the family, but he misunderstood." He turned to face his wife. "Amara has done nothing wrong. She has been more of a parent to Daniel than either of us lately, because while you were busy with charities and social brunches, she stayed home. She listened to him. She helped him when he wanted to." He paused, emotion thickening his voice. "When he wanted to end his life." Mrs. Whitmore staggered back. Her breath caught in her throat. She looked at Amara again, this time, not with anger, but with disbelief, with shame. The silence stretched. Heavy, unforgiving. Amara stood still, her cheeks still red, her eyes glistening, but she did not lower her gaze. Mrs. Whitmore's lips parted, but no words came, just a faint, broken whisper of breath. Mr. Whitmore stepped closer to his wife. "She slapped the one person who saved our son, while we were too distracted to see he was drowning." A breeze stirred the curtains. Outside, the garden was blooming. Inside, something was breaking, and maybe healing. Daniel appeared at the top of the stairs. His eyes were red, but dry. He had heard everything. He walked down, slow and deliberate. No one spoke. He reached Amara and stood beside her. He placed his hand gently on her arm. "I told you I was tired of pretending," he said, looking at his mother. "She was the only one who listened. The only one who made me feel safe." Mrs. Whitmore's shoulders sank. Her hands trembled at her sides. I thought." "I know," Daniel said softly. "But you were wrong." There was no accusation in his voice. Only sadness. And something else. A quiet strength. Mrs. Whitmore looked at Amara again. Not as a servant. Not as a threat. But as someone who had held her son together when she could not. "I am sorry," she whispered. "It was fragile, uncertain, but real." Amara blinked, then gave a single nod. A soft kindness filled the air, wrapping around them like a warm quilt. Mr. Whitmore let out a long breath. "Let us stop pretending we are perfect," he said. "Let us begin again." He turned to Amara. "If you will, let us." Amara glanced at Daniel. He gave a small, encouraging smile. Then she looked back at Mr. Whitmore, and slowly, she nodded. Mr. Whitmore smiled, not with triumph, but with relief. A quiet, thankful kind of smile. Daniel exhaled, as though releasing a weight he had carried for years. Mrs. Whitmore stepped closer. Her eyes, now brimming, searched Amara's face. She reached out, hesitant, unsure. Her hand hovered near Amara's, then gently closed around it. "I judged you," she said, voice shaking, "because I did not know how to face the truth about myself." Amara held her gaze. There was no anger in her expression, only softness, and maybe forgiveness. "I never wanted to take anything from you," she said quietly. "I only wanted him to feel safe." Mrs. Whitmore's grip tightened just a little. "I see that now. I see everything now." The air in the hallway shifted. The coldness that had once lived there had begun to thaw. From the staircase, Daniel took his mother's other hand. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Can we all start over?" For a moment, no one spoke. Then Amara nodded, not with words, but with the kind of grace that grows in hearts that have known pain, and chose kindness anyway. And in that grand house, once filled with silence and suspicion, something new began to bloom. Not from wealth, not from perfection, but from truth, and the courage to face it. They stood there, the four of them, hands gently linked in a fragile circle. No grand speeches, no dramatic apologies, just quiet understanding, and a promise, unspoken but deeply felt. Outside, a bird landed on the balcony rail. Its song was light, almost playful. Inside, a new rhythm began to settle. Mrs. Whitmore turned toward Amara. Her eyes still carried guilt, but also something softer. Admiration. Respect. "You should not be in a uniform," she said suddenly. Amara blinked, surprised. Mrs. Whitmore gave a small, crooked smile. "You belong at this table, not serving it." Amara's breath caught. Her heart swelled, not from pride, but from something far more delicate. A sense of being seen, truly seen. Daniel grinned, his arm still resting lightly on her shoulder. "Mom's right," he said. "She's the only one I trust with my thoughts." Mr. Whitmore stepped forward, eyes kind. "Would you consider staying with us? Not as staff, but as family." The words hung in the air, weightless, yet full of meaning. Amara looked from one face to the next. The woman who had struck her, the boy she had once comforted, the man who had chosen truth over silence. She thought of her mother back home, of the long nights she had spent wondering if kindness still had a place in the world. And now, here it was, growing in the most unexpected soil. "I would be honored," she said softly. And in that moment, the house changed, not in its walls or chandeliers, but in its spirit, because love, real love, had found its way in. Weeks passed, and the estate, once echoing with distance, began to feel like home. Laughter returned to the halls, not loud, not forced, but gentle and real. Mrs. Whitmore began spending quiet afternoons with Daniel, learning how to listen without fixing. Sometimes, she joined Amara in the kitchen, asking for recipes, not because she needed them, but because she wanted the company. Mr. Whitmore took walks with Daniel in the garden, no longer speaking like a businessman, but like a father. And Amara, she was no longer called the housekeeper. She was Amara, a part of them. Not because of duty, but because of the love she had given when no one else did. One morning, Daniel placed a framed photo on the mantel. It showed the four of them seated on the garden bench, sunlight brushing their faces. It was not perfect, but it was peaceful. Underneath, in Daniel's handwriting, were 5 simple words. "Love is who shows up." And in that house, where pride once ruled and kindness had once been quiet, love finally had a name. And it was Amara.